But basically, what you're going to be doing when you're given a problem like this with an angle that's an obtuse angle or non-acute, it could be a reflex angle. We are going to find what's called a reference angle. And my reference angle is always going to be an angle that's made with the terminal side of the given angle and your x-axis. So down at the bottom here, you can see what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can color this in. Right. This angle right in here is my reference angle. It's made with the terminal side of my given angle and the x-axis. So right in here or right in here. Okay. Now, if you're in quadrant 1, you don't need a reference angle because that's an acute angle. That's what we did in the last chapter when we were working with angles in a right triangle. But if your if your angle is not an acute angle, you need a reference angle in order to find your trig functions. So my next set of problems that I have here are just asking me to find the reference angle. And this is going to become the smaller part of a bigger problem that we're going to have later on in the handout. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to sketch my angle that I'm given. I know that a straight line is 180 degrees. So an angle that's 150 is going to be over here in quadrant 2. So this angle is 150. What is this reference angle going to be in here? 30. Now, your book goes through this explanation about how to find your reference angle, 180 minus theta. I would not take the time to memorize these. If you know what a reference angle is, then you can sketch this out and know that it's going to be 180 minus 150. You should be able to figure that out from the picture instead of having to take the time to memorize something. I would rather y'all think through these things with understanding than memorizing stuff. Okay, so problem 2, let's go ahead and do that one. 220 is going to be over here. Right, this angle here is 220. So what is this reference angle in here going to be? 40. Problem 3, I have an angle that's negative 160. So there's my initial side, and a negative angle means I have a clockwise rotation. So if I'm going clockwise, this would be negative 180 over here. So negative 160 is this way, right? So what is my reference angle in here going to be? This would be 20. Very good. And it's always going to be a positive number. So we're going to skip 4. Let's look at 5. Here we have 7 pi over 6. If y'all remember from the first problem from your test, we had to know how to sketch angles that were in radians. So I know that this is pi. I could also write this as 6 pi, right? 6 is canceled, it's just pi. So if I split this up into 6, then 7/6 is going to be over here, right? 7 pi over 6. So that means this angle in here is 1 pi over 6 or pi over 6. Okay, now problem 7, I could do a couple of different ways. I could sketch out a picture like I did with problem 5, or I know that 13 pi over 4, you know, if I did a little math, I could figure out that's more than 2 pi. That's more than one full rotation. So I could subtract 2 pi from that, which 2 pi we could write as 8/4 pi. So 13 minus 8 is 5. So that's the same thing as having 5/4. That is coterminal. That's a coterminal angle, which means that this angle looks just like this angle when it's on a grid, as long as you don't have like the direction or how many rotations you have. So 5/4 pi is going to be over here in quadrant 3. If this is 5/4, this reference angle is pi over 4. Let me see here. Okay, can skip the next one. Now notice my directions up here. It said that you need to know how to solve or to find each of those without a calculator, except for this one. I mean, that's, you're going to have to subtract 2 pi and subtract 2 pi and 2 pi and 2 pi and 2 pi. And you could use a calculator on that. You're not going to have anything that complicated on a test that you're going to have to be able to do without a calculator. Okay, so that leads us to actually looking at finding trig functions of obtuse angles. So all of the stuff that we've been doing has been building up to this. So now I can find trig functions of these obtuse angles. And I'm going to follow these steps up here in order to do these problems. Now, you're going to have to know how to do this without a calculator on this test. So I know it's very tempting to want to stick these in the calculator on your homework, but if you keep doing that on your homework, then it's going to come back to bite you on your test. So be sure you know to do these without a calculator. First thing I'm going to do is make a sketch. 135 is over here in quadrant 2. So this angle is 135. That means that this reference angle here is going to be 45. Everybody understand that? Okay. Sine of 135. I'm going to go back to my definitions, circular definitions again. Y over R. I know that R is always positive. And if I find some point over here on this line, my Y value is going to be positive, right? This whole thing here is positive. Bless you. So this sine value of 135 is going to be positive value of sine of 45. And sine of 45, instead of having to go back to this and use my definition for like opposite over adjacent, I made you a table. Sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. And you can use this table on your test. You can't use your calculator, but you use the first part of the test, but you'll be able to use this table of values.